Welcome to Lesson 19. Be sure to check out the PowerPoint presentations associated with this lesson for more in-depth information on the subject and for energy exercises associated with it. So let's talk about mastery. Early on in training, I talked about how the training in the order proceeded through 4 phases. The first phase involves separating yourself from the world to follow the warrior path and discover yourself, which makes you a squire. The second phase, becoming a knight, is all about taking what you've learned about yourself and discovering how to use it to take charge of your life. The third phase, mastery, is about going back out into the world and helping others down the same path. Every person who's ever put on the black belt of the Master of the Order has been faced with a challenge within months of achieving this milestone. It's always something that's related to whatever they had to overcome to get to this point. However, life is a series of battles in which faces each challenge that comes along and deals with each of them. I've discovered that following this challenge, the master enters into a fourth phase. Having met and overcome the principal challenge, some who go on to be successful take this as an indication that they can take on all challenges and go on to do so. Unfortunately, some take the view that one challenge they overcame is the last challenge. They think that their work is done and they stop meeting challenges, blaming their lack of success on their difficulties or on others. This isn't mastery. To be a warrior is to be measured. Mastery is something that you must constantly work towards. It is elusive and must constantly be sought after. It's about setting an example. Knighthood's about service. You can cause change in the world by standing up and showing the world by your example how you want that world to be. Albert Schweitzer once said, "There's no higher religion than human service. To work for the common good is the greatest creed." Thomas Morell said, "The first gift that we can bestow on others is good example." So it's about lighting the way. You may not be able to single-handedly blow away the smoke that people often create to obscure the truth, but you can light the way through the murk for people who have the eyes to see. As I mentioned earlier, there are 4 cycles in the Order's training. As I said, the first is where you leave the mundane world and start down the warrior path. The second is where you learn what to do with this knowledge. The third is where you return to the mundane world to help others down the path. The fourth cycle is where the master chooses a quest to commit themselves to, which will provide a voluntary challenge for them to face in the coming year. Successful completion of that quest is required to earn the final initiation, Paladin. To assist in this transition back to the mundane world and establish a habit of service which exemplifies the example that we of the Order wish to set for those around us, you're required to choose a quest at this stage. A project, a great work, a service that you can engage in to assist the community. Examples of service include chaplaincy work, interfaith projects, public service work, volunteer work, and so on. It could be a project or enterprise that you're already engaged in, or it could be something new. Candidates for mastering must register their proposals for the quest with the Chancellor prior to meeting to their mastering ritual to ensure that it meets the standards required. When you were initiated as a squire in armoring, all you had to do was complete the lessons that led up to it. When you were initiated as a knight in the arming, you needed to write a ritual to show that you understood the ritual. Unlike the previous 2 initiations, the mastering is something that you have to be confident enough to ask for. The masters won't give you this initiation unless you ask for it. Part of the reason for this is that the mastering candidate knights need to come up with a short demonstration of their mastery for the ritual. This demonstration, called the Battle of Proof, may involve their magical weapon of choice. The challenge facing those of you approaching this milestone in your knighthood is what to do when the Seneschal challenges you at the entrance of the mastering ritual, saying, "How will you demonstrate your mastery?" Remember Paul Tweakin's description of a warrior? He said, "Soldiers march, warriors dance." In our definition of a warrior is a person who takes a fearless inventory of their personal characteristics and uses this information to take control of their life. So one way to look at this battle of proof is like a Zen koan. For those unfamiliar with that, in Zen Buddhism, Zen masters give their students riddles called koans to solve. The Japanese word koan, the Chinese equivalent being kang-an, means public case. It's exactly what this battle of proof is. It's a public case. In answering a koan, the Zen student is allowed to do anything at all. Anything. As in this case, the student can do their battle of proof, and it can be a gesture, a pantomime, a statement, a single word. Anything is possible. There's an old Zen poem that states, "Everywhere I went, I met with words, but I couldn't understand them. The ball of doubt within my heart was as big as a wicker basket. The master from his map of felt rose up like a dragon, and baring his right arm struck my chest a single blow. My ball of doubt, fright shattered, fell to the ground with a crash. The first koan of the In-Zen school of Zen is, in clapping both hands, the sound is heard. What is the sound of one hand clapping? The answer is simple as that. So in the battle of proof, that's my koan to you. Like the Zen monk, you can do anything within reason to answer it. So be creative. Look closely at what your magical weapon represents and choose wisely. It's a demonstration, a short demonstration in which the candidate for initiation may actually use their chosen magical weapon. It could be a bokata, it could be a display of swordmanship, a senowali form. This option has clearly been one of the first things considered by many candidates coming up for the mastering. It's not surprising since this is a warrior tradition, and since their training is clearly influenced by martial arts. We all dedicated ourselves to magical weapons to the army, which made us knights. The candidate for the mastering knows that they have to bring that magical weapon to the mastering ritual to become a master. If you don't succeed, you don't get initiated. So what to do? It's not surprising to me that so many approaching this milestone seem to struggle trying to come up with ideas for what they will do in the upcoming battle of proof. The problem is that you're all thinking martial arts is fighting. Let me remind you that in the very first class I taught you, soldiers march, warriors dance. So it could be anything at all. And it basically is important to keep it simple. It isn't important to be long or elaborate. In fact, it's better if it's short and concise. Presumably, the candidate would not even be here seeking his initiation if they'd not already met the requirements by demonstrating that mastery that they wish to be recognized for. Specifically, before applying to be initiated as masters, they must be able to write and perform Sabbath rituals, teach classes in the subjects that are part of the magical curriculum of the order, and prove that they've engaged in charitable work of some sort for their community. They also must be able to prove that they've attained some level of mastery of the magical weapon for which they dedicated themselves in the arming ritual that made them a knight. So be creative. Look closely at what your magical represents. Choose wisely. One place you can go looking for inspiration is the Zendo that we've talked about in previous lessons, the place where air and earth energies merge. Go back to lesson 14 if you want to check that out. In the mastering ritual, you dedicate yourself to mind and spirit, which is the fifth pair of magical weapons, which masters the other four. Remember what the Japanese word for karate means? It means empty hand. Think of hands and feet as swords. It's an old adage, something to keep in mind. In the arming ritual, the candidate becomes the master of their chosen magical weapon. In the mastering, the candidate becomes the magical weapon themselves. So go out there, check the PowerPoint presentation for more information on mirror magic and other energy exercises, and go out there and be glorious.